a couple of years ago, I could not have thought of what the hell we would have done on that stage, and now I'm just like, man, I don't know if it's big enough. Like, I don't know if we've got enough room to do what we want to do in there.
Hello, you're watching Anime. I'm Jordan Bassett. We're here with Winston from Parkway Drive.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we're here to talk about the new live DVD, or the tour DVD rather, Viva The Underdogs.
Yeah.
What is it that makes Parkway Drive, after all these years, underdogs?
Do you think we are?
Well,
that's the question.
This is the question.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
For us, we still feel it. We still feel like we are outsiders. I think the entire time that we've grown up as a band, we have grown up in being kids that like punk rock kids that played in a hardcore scene that like started playing metal music, which were told, you ain't really hardcore kids, you're not really metal kids.
Right. Okay.
Who then started playing in places that people had never really been to, and then you go overseas and you're told that metalcore is something that will never go anywhere, and it's a dying type of music, and everything that you're doing is not legitimately this and not that, and you don't dress the right way, you don't do this, you don't that. Every show you do is going to be the biggest thing you've ever done, and it's always a shock that you're doing it, and it's never going to last. And you get told that enough, and you kind of just believe it.
Right. Okay.
And when that's expected of you, and like it still is the kind of thing where I think it's been only that maybe the last year where people have gone, there is so much momentum behind this band that it kind of can't be ignored. You can't put it in that pigeonhole, because up until then I've always just, like, I read interviews and I see perceptions and stuff, and it's always been like, wow, Parkway doing this, like, it's awesome, it's never going to be bigger than that, but it'll be this. And the amount of glass ceilings that we've gone through, I'll have glass in my hair for the rest of my life.
Well, by the same token though, I mean, any band that starts out in any kind of metal scene and then has any kind of commercial success, or even deviates from its original sound, is going to get some criticism. Yeah. And I'm sure you've got very thick skin, but does any of that ever kind of get through?
100%.
Really?
It does the whole time. Like, that was what and I'm sure that every single person that says that it doesn't get through is just straight up lying. Yeah. Like, of course it does. Every single thing that you can't ignore the way that something makes you feel. The only way you can do it is hopefully just disengage from it, which is literally what I've done. Like, the bigger you become, the bigger that target gets on your back, simply because more people know who you are, and people like to take shots. So for me, I'm just like, limit it as much as I can, because it's just, even if you have confidence in yourself, it's hard to maintain the entire time. It just honestly is.
So what do? You just keep your head down and keep going? Yeah,
that's it. It takes a lot of trust in yourself, and a lot of just realizing why you're doing it in the first place, which for us has been, we enjoy this process of creating the art that we do, and the value that we get from it. It's, when you boil it down, it never started as anything other than something we wanted to do for ourselves.
So does that still come from the same place as it did 15 years ago?
Yeah, 100%. And it's just different now, because we've grown as people and as artists, and it's really interesting because it's the same. It really is the same process of creation in terms of how the music connects with us. Yeah. It just connects to different places which literally did not exist at that point in time within ourselves, and with the skills that we now have, and within the areas which we get to play. So it's a really weird way to watch the evolution happen, but at the same point be able to track that core and the ethic and the drive of this band to the same point that it started. And that's been the thing with everything that we've done. It really all still operates, every element of this band operates in the same way that it did in the first place, which was like, it just comes back to those original ideals and beliefs and ethics that we had with every single thing we've done. It's just on a much bigger scale now.
Well, if you could sort of sum up those ideals and beliefs in a nutshell that have gone through the band through 15 years, how could you sort of, is it possible to sum that up?
Integrity in what you do and what you create in terms of compromising for reasons that you don't that you do not see, as that you don't hold as valid within your beliefs.
Yes,
that's probably the thing with everything, the single thing that we do.
Yes,
I'm pretty impressed that we have. Probably the biggest accomplishment that we've had is being able to look back and go, there's 0 point in our history where we've had to compromise and put ourselves in a position where we've had to compromise to get somewhere.
Yes.
Everything that we've done, there's been plenty of times when we've got somewhere, but it's taken a lot longer to get there because we didn't sign something away or compromise an aspect of our character or our personality or our sound or anything like that just to further what we're doing. Everything about the sound has got there organically. Everything about the trajectory of the band has got there simply from working.
And that's what the fans respond to, right? Because you don't have to apply that to, you don't have to be in a band to respond to that.
That's exactly it, and that's what we always felt. It's been the fake it till you make it thing.
Yeah,
has never been. We've been very aware of we cannot fake it. We just. We can't. We always struggled with our own self-belief in the first place, let alone trying to posture as something else.
Yeah.
So the idea of trying to be something that we're not, or sound something that we're not, or all of those kind of things, it would never have worked for us, and it was the thing that we never liked. We never connected.
Yeah.
You see through it.
Yes.
And it's not what I like about music. The music that I connect to is something that comes from a place that is genuine, and it doesn't have to be heavy music or fast music or anything like that. It is just something that is real, and it communicates. You know when it communicates to you on a level which you can't put together in any way other than what that music is actually doing. It's a greater language.
Yes.
And I think as soon as you start trying to fake something to fill simply a sonic void or a visual void or anything like that, that connection dies.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy making the film? Because being on tour's got to be hard enough without having a camera crew buzzing around.
Oh, it was I'd love to say yes, but there's so many points where just fuck off, Alan. Just get the camera away. Just stop filming. It was, to be honest, I liked it. I liked it because of its the ability to be real. The whole idea for it was we wanted to make something, but we didn't know what people wanted to see. We knew there was something about this band that was interesting at this point in time that wasn't necessarily connecting with people in the way that we'd shown it before.
Yeah.
There was this disconnect of who we are and who people still relate to.
Right.
So we wanted to bring that out visually, and that took an outside perspective of what is interesting about this band and how do we capture it and how do we capture the stakes of what's going on without acting.
Yeah.
We wanted it to be real again.
Yeah.
So the good thing was honestly, when shit went wrong, the cool thing for once was when things went wrong, we were well, that was fucked up, but at least we have something on film for the fuck up. So that was probably the best part of it was being able to see it through someone else's lens, was through Alan's.
Right.
Because those guys, the Hype Media crew, are from outside of the metal realm.
Right.
They've done hip hop stuff, and they've done a bunch of amazing sporting movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they worked on our music video for The Void, and that was the first heavy music they'd ever done. So they're really looking at it with green eyes.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
In the sense of this is new and fresh.
Yeah.
So they had the perspective of this is, for me, this is interesting, and for us, we're this is just every day. But
did this maybe help you go a little bit less stir crazy on tour because you were able to see it you were able to have a little bit of distance from it and see it slightly from someone else's perspective?
To a degree, but to be honest, it was less stir crazy and more it just happened to be a hectic year.
Right,
And things were going like, there was a lot of, just every time they were there happened to be when drama happened.
Yeah, well, because there's this scene in Spain when it gets a little bit tense about the production.
Dude!
And I wondered if is that like typical of a Parkway Drive tour, or is that was that year?
It was just been the year. Like, it really was like, it's not typical, but things happen. Like, things go wrong, and it's just it's a big operation.
Yeah.
It really is. And there's so many things which can happen and go wrong. That show, when like everything went wrong, it really just was like, wow, like literally when it rains, it pours.
Right,
And it was hilarious because we had looked forward to that show for so long. And at the end of the day, that show was awesome because like the crowd's phenomenal, but behind the scenes, there's so much drama. And like that shot of me, like the Molotov not lighting and me throwing it and everything, and the disappointment that you see, it was meant to be the other way around. Like he was like, I want to get on stage tonight and get this one shot of you lighting it in front of those fans because this show's going to be mental. Yeah. And in reality, he just got everything you see, which is disappointment and me losing my shit. And
well, did you have any kind of reservations about letting people see that?
No, because that's real. Like, that's the thing. That's what I liked about them being there, because I think if we made the movie, that's the kind of thing which you'd want to hide because you're scared of putting it out there. Yeah. And I do want people, like, the whole idea of this, the more in depth we got with it, was we wanted to portray what it is like being in a band in a modern era. Like, there's not really many reference points for how this music world works that's current.
Right,
you see, and the more that we still like look to the past and these glorified images of memory, and you see it on a big screen, and people still see rock and roll and the music industry as this bathtub of money and drugs and excess, and the place where your imagination and dreams and everything are just a shining halo of success. And it's all from an era which no longer exists. And what you see that we were putting forward and that is the reality of being a working band. Yeah. Like, and that's it. And that is stress and drama and stakes. And it's not like, it's still like, we're still very privileged to be in the position we're in. That's the thing. But it's not like just Hollywood magic.
Yes. Well, in terms of being a band that's like a very tight unit, the last album there was a lot of difficult material that you were dealing with there. It's an album about grief without necessarily having to get into the specifics about that. Could you talk a little bit about how the band sort of came through that period and where you were at the start of the album and where at the end?
It was fucking hard. Like, it was probably the easiest way that I could describe it was things happen in life which make you realize priorities. Right. And what was going on during that period was so intense that we were put in situations where like, this person has to do this and has to do this because of these reasons, and we'd be like, of course, like, of course you have to do that. Of course you can't be in the band right now. Of course, like, you can't be on tour. You can't do it any other way, and we have to be there for you in this way, and we have to, like, you have to learn how to function with certain parameters and certain things, like, in the back of your mind that are happening, like events happening to people that you care about, and that's just what it kind of is, and you get through it as best as you can, because you can't predict, like, there's situations that you literally can't predict, like no one saw any of that time period coming, and it was just like, you're going to have to deal with this situation at some point in time because it's now been diagnosed. Yeah. So you just learn how to deal with it. And there's no right, you do what you think is right, basically, because there's no like handbook of how to deal with this stuff. You just try and be a good person and a good friend.
Yeah.
So,
was that the first time you'd ever kind of, as a group, had to operate in that way?
Yeah, I think, as far as I can remember, to that extreme.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was really fucked. Like, it was really fucked. It's just straight up. But it's like that's what life is. That's what life is. It was one of the it was the harshest realities of life catching up in a way that we didn't expect.
And it's like adulthood as well, isn't it? You know, it's like getting older, these things happen, and then you have to learn how to. That's
it. And the thing with that whole period as well was it was, in terms of like when I look back at it now, obviously a lot of time has passed with being able to deal with that kind of stuff. But it was also the start it would have been, I'm not sure if it happens for everyone, but like loss started very specifically around that time and has not stopped in terms of like we've lost more friends, and as whether or not it's the age that we're at or whatever's going on in the world, but we've kept losing people and friends since. It hasn't been something that was like that happened and then just like we've never experienced anything again like that.
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of it happens, and you just learn to cope with grief. So yeah.
I mean, that must make sort of touring bittersweet, because on the one hand, I think from personal experience, I think when these kinds of things happen, when these kinds of terrible things happen in your life, it makes you appreciate the good stuff more. So, you know, being on tour with your friends and you kind of appreciate that, but at the same time, it must be harder to be away from home too. So that must be quite.
It's the thing. It's time. What it does is it makes you. It gives you a very, very stark reminder of the value of time. That was the biggest thing that came out of all of it, and it has influenced, like, well, me personally, like my perspective on life in general. Like,
you mean the time that you have with the people that you care about? Just in general,
life time in general is, you can't buy any more of it. You will, like, you don't get it back.
Yeah.
And it's constantly moving. So the way you choose to spend it and use it is ultimately what your life comes down to.
Yeah.
And that was when it really hit, like being on tour and being given news and then waking up the next day and going, this is a gig that I'm doing in a world where that person no longer exists.
Yeah.
It's a very, very stark reminder of why you should value that gig that you're doing. And at the same time, yeah, like if you're going to be away from the people that you love so much, you better make damn sure that it's worth that time.
Right.
And you're going to, like, that was very much like what drove the commitment to the sound of like Reverence, the album, and a lot of the attitude that we have these days is like second guessing it and not doing yourself the justice of having the guts to commit to something. Yes. And hoping that you get another chance to grow the guts to commit to something. Is something that, why waste your time doing it? Like, you have the shot at doing it now, just do it.
Yeah.
Because you can't always count on there being like another album cycle, or I'm scared of what someone might say or think.
Yes.
Like, if I'm feeling it, just feel it and make that sound, put on that show, play this gig, because that's what we care about. And in terms of all of the stuff that we do within the band, that's why there's been a big commitment to that kind of mentality and what we are.
Speaking of things you value, there's a really quite poignant scene when you go back to Byron Bay after you've finished tour, and it's such a contrast, and you're kind of walking on the beach, and it's so still and quiet and beautiful. Could you talk a little bit about what that place means to you and what it's like to go back there after all the craziness of being on tour?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that because we live 2 hours from like the airport that we fly in and out of, and I know that every time I step out of that airport into that environment, I immediately am hit by the familiarity and the quality, like whatever the quality is within the air and the smells and everything like that hits me. And the drive home when you get within like 30 Ks of our home, every time I'm looking out the window, I'm always stunned by the actual landscape. And there's something about that area. Like Byron's basically on the rim of a very ancient volcano, like blew up millions of years ago or something. It's huge. And the place itself I still find it the most beautiful place on the planet. It's really, really beautiful. I've seen a lot of the world, and it just has a connection. Like I have a connection with it, and whatever the energy is there, it obviously does that for a lot of people, because a lot of people get drawn to that place. But for me, it's a really centering part of the planet, and I feel like that is where, no matter how far I go out, like it draws me back into that spot. Which is weird.
Well, I mean, it's home though, right? You know?
It is. Like it is, and it's. It really is, and it always feels like it, and it's not somewhere that pushes me away. I leave it, but I do always want to come back, and it's the place where everything kind of clicks in together, and within me, I feel like that's where that area of the world is where where my home is.
Well, like the rest of the world, we've been kind of watching in horror at the news reports of the bushfires in Australia and around particularly your part of the country. Could you talk a little bit about how it's felt to see that unfold?
It's been crazy. So we copped it. We started the Northern Rivers area started earliest, I think it was in all of this, which was bushfire season generally starts in the middle of summer, and this started the start of spring, I think it was, which was really, really weird to start with. And it escalated very, very quickly, and it was straight up terrifying. We're in the studio at the time doing some track stuff, and I measured a temperature 10 degrees higher than the hottest temperature that I'd ever seen in our town. I was like, this is, I haven't seen this temperature in the middle of the desert in our country.
Right.
And this is here. We couldn't, then the smoke came in and you couldn't see. It was like 50-meter visibility, orange the entire day. There was towns around us, like Byron missed out on the fire, which was awesome, but it was in the hills surrounding the town, and there was towns getting evacuated around us, and this was before the crisis part of it even hit. This was just the start, and people were just like, "This is pretty hectic. We better start evacuating the smaller towns." And then once it all started around Sydney and everything, it was mental. We flew over the fire front on the way to one of the Good Things festivals, and it was. I've never seen a sight like it in my entire life. It was as far as you could see in both directions, like a line of smoke and fire. And it was that's when we were flying over, you could have 100,000 people there with hoses, and you could not stop that. It was terrifying, and it was non-stop smoke, just looked completely like Armageddon. No one in the country has ever seen or felt anything like that, and it just felt like you could brush your hands and it would catch fire. Everything was that dry and that dead. It was when we were at home and we were sitting in our house, it was genuinely scary, because it just felt like at the drop of a hat, anything could just catch fire.
So people that have been sort of personally affected by it as well, right?
My uncle and auntie had to evacuate. Their neighbours lost their home. I've had a friend, my auntie and uncle, when they came back, their house had been saved. On one side of the shed, the pot plants were still green. On the other side of the shed, there's a puddle of molten aluminium, which used to be a motorbike.
Wow.
And they got very lucky that the wind changed direction when it got to their home. But 3 other houses next to them got razed. I've had friends who've had to evacuate onto the beach and drive a jet ski to work the next day because all the roads are blocked. I've had friends who have had to defend their home 3 times because 3 different fires have come through and then change direction and come back again and come back again and evacuate. And most people know someone or have been directly affected in that way. Like, it's the amount of land that it has burnt is mental. Like, it's more than Wales.
Yeah.
Like, it's staggering. So,
was Scott Morrison's response adequate?
Hell no.
Right.
No, but that's just coming from the man that several months earlier had told people, don't strike for climate change because we don't want people, because kids should be in school and shouldn't be feeling anxious. And there's a reason they're feeling anxious, dude. Like, and then this happens. It's the same guy that brought a lump of coal into Parliament and literally said, "Don't be afraid of the coal. It's just coal." God. Like, it's he's an ad man. Like, it's that's the thing. But like, I get why all of this stuff is something that is hard to react to or act about when it's such a vast concept which is not affecting you at that point in time. It's always seemed like something that would happen way down the line, that you can't imagine a world where you look outside and you can't tell if it's night and day because of smoke, or you can't breathe properly, or the temperature feels like the inside of an oven or something like that, or you're scared that a tornado made of fire is going to like roll down your street. Like, you can't comprehend that until it happens. Yeah. And then the reality of what that is terrifying. So
well, it's hard in the music industry to start to address it though, because because
the industry itself, like, I'm driving around in a bus and flying, and
or making records or printing magazines, whatever.
Yeah, but the thing with it is, like, it's bigger than that. It's a human problem in the sense of very basic, like, all the bands in the world could stop doing what they're doing, and at the end of the day, we still are getting power from, like, the basic systems that run all these things need to change.
Yes.
Like, they need to change if they can. Like, I believe that they can, but we need to figure out the way that society functions and the way that we create everything, like, from the ground up in terms of power and the way things are powered to be able to do it. And it starts with mentality, and hopefully a global mentality can lead to a global change. But I think blaming individuals or anything like that is a bit too harsh at this point in time, simply because a lot of individuals operate within very set parameters that are laid out by an industrial revolution based on coal. Right. So that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, you have to unwind the technology that we've based our planet on and reinstate that in a cleaner way, which can be done. But at the same point in time, it's pretty, like, that's another very massive concept to get your head around.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Well, in the documentary, you talk about funnily enough, being what actually someone else says, that the thing about Parkway Drive is they're always one step ahead. And I think it's in the context at the time they're saying, and sometimes the production's one step behind.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
But just in terms of being sort of like one step ahead, where does that leave you sometimes? Does that get... does that ever make you sort of frustrated as a band because you're always wanting to go to the next place and you've got to wait to get there?
You live up here a hell of a lot. You know what? I'd rather, like, not really, because you're always in a constant state of excitement, to be honest.
Right.
And it's really nice to know that right now, like, what we currently do is really stimulating and really exciting.
Yeah.
And that goes on every single aspect of what the band is doing. And considering we are 16 years into doing this and feel more invigorated and more stimulated and more inspired by what we get to create, that's pretty crazy. Like, it could very much be the other way around and you're just burnt out, and every aspect of your creative ability is spent.
I mean, there's plenty of bands in that position after 16 years.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, for me, I feel like it is only growing, which is, and not only is it growing, but everything behind the band in terms of what people connect with and the amount of people that continue to connect with it and afford us even bigger opportunities and chances to make another record or play a bigger venue or play more shows or anything like that. All that does is feed us with more opportunities to continue creating, which is really, really awesome, because in my brain, I'm very far down the track of the next several steps.
Which is where are you up here?
Pretty far down the rabbit hole.
Of a new album?
Yeah. There's like, we haven't started officially creating new music yet, but that happens quite soon. Like we literally have like 5 years worth of plan of how everything's going to roll out. The next piece of music that we want to create, I believe share the ambition to create something more than what we've done before, in terms of the amount of time that we put into it, the creative scope of everything that we do, the ambition, the character, and what it actually stands for. Mainly because this seems like the first time in the band's career that we've ever not been limited by or defined by something other than the pure creative force.
Right.
And
you mean there are sort of fewer restraints now?
Yeah, because like when you write your first record, your restraint is simply your ego, your mentality, and your experience.
Right.
So
it's a good way of putting it.
Well, that's what it is. Like if you can have different levels in those things, and that will afford you what the sound comes out. And from then on, it depends on, again, a different mixture of those tied in with where you want to be in a band, and if you want that, how far you want to do it, how much touring you've got, how much finances you've got, how much time you have to put into the record around all of those things and the mix of those different things. And that's record number 2, and record number 3 is another thing of that, but you're further down the track. And then for us, there's been different experiences of figuring out that you're part of this cycle. Yeah. Figuring out how that cycle is going to affect what you create and what you get to create. And then reverence, and it was very specific like set of experiences which were going on, which was like, this is the only thing I can write about at this point in time, and that is going to affect the tone of these songs, and then these songs are going to affect the other songs, and this is how this era is going to be captured. Because at the end of the day, a record is just capturing an era of time on a piece of recorded music.
Well, it's so interesting that that last album is, you're pouring your personal experience into it, stuff that you would not necessarily think of as being like a commercially successful thing, and yet that turns out to be this thing that,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. So at the same point in time, maybe I hope that it's a bit of validation to I hold it as validation in terms of the musical concept of it being so, there's so many elements of of Parkway Drive's character which has only been revealed or defined on that record, which are now, that's just who we are. And being able to go, oh, fuck it, we are this. Like, this is real. And it doesn't sound like anything we've done before on this song, but this is a part of us. And have it be a true representation, and have it also be acknowledged by people. And it not just be like, nah. That's not them. Like, and like, again, not have to fake it, and also not have to step back from that, because that's the thing. Like, it's really nice to be able to continue to. I still want to learn more about music, and I still want to create more. And the limit for me has always been, I can imagine quite a lot of our sound, but at the same point in time, I still have no musical training in a lot of it. And a lot of the aspects of the sound that I hear, I don't know how to create, so I have to rely on other people's ability and translation ability of like what I'm envisioning. And that goes for other members of the band as well. And luckily, like, I think the thing with Parkway that's always been awesome is we share a collective vision which is impossible without the other members of the band.
Yeah.
But like when it comes together, it's always, it's like the other members of the band can see what I'm imagining it, but in a better version.
Yeah, right.
But at the same point in time, I'm doing a similar thing for their version of their song, which they see in their head, and it's amplifying that. And where it comes to is a point that none of us could quite imagine, but it was always where it was meant to go. And it is always the thing that sounds right, which is a really, really strange dynamic to have within the band. And it's nice to know that I think we're stronger like than the sum of our parts.
Yeah. Well, you said you got a 5-year plan. What's in it? What's in the 5-year plan?
All these things, man. All of God. Well, the next tour, like, oh no, not even the next tour. Like the movie comes out, which is crazy. We got a live album, which is crazy.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about
tracks,
this.
Crazy.
German track.
Yeah. There's like three songs which I had sung in German on it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, dude.
Well, like this is what I was going to ask you. Like, so you're putting out a live album. Is that because you wanted people who maybe haven't had a chance or haven't been able to see the show to see how important the live aspect of the band is? Is that it?
Yeah, it's been. We've always liked the idea of doing a live album because they always, like, if you do it right, it does hold. I always love the live album where when you put it on and you close your eyes, it can take you to that environment. It does spark that extra piece of imagination because they are two like different interpretations of the music, the studio and the live setting.
Yeah.
And it's nice being able to capture both and being able to try and capture that, but on that form.
Right.
It's a fun process. And it was just, to be honest, like when we heard the tracks, like, and the quality that they came back, was like, man, it was originally thought of being something much smaller.
Yeah. And
we're just like, this recording quality is really damn good.
Yeah.
And our mixing crew is really good at bringing it out, and there's an opportunity here to be able to do that, because at the end of the day, like, Parkway was always designed as like a live beast rather than a recorded beast. That aspect of us grew much more and has evolved much more with our experience, simply because we never thought we'd write a record in the first place. It was just a small town band that wanted to write songs that their friends could mosh in the local youth centre.
That's awesome.
And that's it. So that's the thing, like being able to capture that for people to be able to take you to that place a little bit through your headphones is a cool concept.
And sort of, you talked about new music. So when you sit down with the 5-year plan, do you go, the music's going to sound like this?
Yeah, that's the weird one, because I have that in my head. For me, it's like seeing colours and tones and landscapes and pieces of cinema and images. Like that's my reference for what this sound is, which is the same as what it's always been. It's just really, really vast. But now I have to work out how to translate that into, like, I know what the sound is, but I can't explain it.
Okay. Do the images you're seeing, do they look similar to the images you had around Reverence?
So here's the thing. If you're trying to figure out what it's going to sound like, just say it. I want it to be like, we don't like going backwards.
Yeah.
That's the thing with everything. Like I was definitely, when we were just like, all right, no more, like, there's no compromise here. There's like full commitment to everything that we ever want to do with sound, even though it might be something we've never done before. Yeah. And from that point on, it is like, what can we do and what do we want to do? And the core to what Parkway is we are a heavy band. Yeah. It's not, I have no desire, no one has any desire to be a pop band, a rock band, a folk band, an acoustic band, anything like that. Yeah. We may like little elements of these things, but no matter what they are, they fit within and complement the fact that we are a heavy band. Now, within what that actually is, I love the idea of there being scope and interest and things that take you to places which are emotive and can transport you to somewhere you don't expect but is still familiar and doesn't have to be a complete disconnection from something that you already love. It's like just finding another outlook on a landscape that you never have seen to, like climbing to another side of your favorite view and seeing the entire thing from another perspective.
Yeah.
That's what I see the future of this band always being. And those are the kind of images that I have in my head. Like for every like new heavy idea I have an idea for some strange ambient section or like some other thing of using the guitar a different way or some other way of a different drum pattern or some section using a different style of vocals or bringing in people that work with music that we've never worked before in our life and all those kind of things and expanding on it in a way that is cohesive and is also something that still represents everything that this band is.
Yeah.
Because I at this point in time I feel like we're still capable of so much more. That's it.
After 16 years.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I think it just comes down to like us having a passion for it.
Yeah.
Like we love making music and we're still all like, it's weird, I think, because we are learning music as we go. This is almost like music school on the fly for us. So you constantly learn these new skills through experience and trial and error, and it's just like people happen to hear those trial and error as successful outcomes on records which they now love. But for us at that point in time, that was us literally a lot of the time trying something for the first time and going, oh, this might work with us. And when you take that into account and you realize how big the sonic realm is, there's a lot that we can do and there's a lot that we want to do. So I haven't lost interest in it.
You're doing Wembley in the UK in April.
Yeah.
What can you preemptively, what are fans going to see?
It's going to be sick.
I was going to ask you to sum it up in one word.
It's going to be sick.
Thrilled.
Memorable. No. Oh God, what can you expect? You can expect us not to be shying away from the opportunity. Put it that way. It's a pretty big thing. Like, man, I really did not think that would have been on the cards.
Yeah.
Now I'm not. Now I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, we can do that. But even within the space of a couple of years, I'm like, whoa, that's been a big leap in what we can do, and it's very interesting to be able to go. A couple of years ago, I could not have thought of what the hell we would have done on that stage, and now I'm just like, man, I don't know if it's big enough. Like, I don't know if we've got enough room to do what we want to do in there.
I like it.
But that's cool. Like, it's going to be. I want to continue just evolving what we do with the visuals as well, and because it heightens the entire experience. That's the whole idea of putting on something live in the first place. Like, it's a step up from what you hear on the headphones.
That's awesome.
So,
all right. Yeah. Be there. Winston, thank you so much.
Thank you.